What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Conor McGregor reacts to Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. After Jon Jones won the heavyweight title by dispatching of Ciryl Gane with a quick guillotine choke, the focus quickly shifted to former heavyweight kingpin Stipe Miocic, sitting cage side. By all indications, a fight between Miocic and Jones had been all but booked for the UFC International Fight Week pay-per-view card. However, as time went by without any news, many began to wonder what the holdup was. Although Jones seemed eager to make a quick turnaround, and Miocic seemed eager to prove that he's still the greatest heavyweight in the history of the UFC, Dana White revealed in an interview that Jones was MIA. As announcements for UFC 290 fights began to roll out, there were still no updates regarding the bout. However, leading up to the event, it was announced that Jones and Miocic would finally square off later this year at Madison Square Garden. Immediately, the predictions for the bout began to fly, with Miocic calling it a classic matchup of styles given that he'll be looking to keep the fight standing and close the distance, while Jones will be looking to use his range and his grappling to control the fight. Recently, former two-division UFC champion Conor McGregor was asked about the bout while signing autographs.
Jones, Miocic, a great bout, great heavyweight bout. Jon proved his worth in the heavyweight division. Stipe, they say, is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. You know, I'm interested to see how that will go. Has he been training as well? He's got some things that could trouble Jon. And John's Jon, so I'm excited to see it go. So a lot of great fights on the pipeline. That Max coming back this year. Thank you.
McGregor also ended the interview by saying that he would be coming back before the end of the year, something that has been quite the topic of conversation over the course of the past few weeks. With Jones versus Miocic set to headline the UFC's November pay-per-view card at Madison Square Garden, it'll be interesting to see whether or not McGregor does in fact return to fight Michael Chandler in the main event of UFC's year-end pay-per-view the following month. When Jones and Miocic step into the octagon, who do you think gets the job done? Drop your predictions in the comment section below. Jamahal Hill relinquishes light heavyweight title. This week, unfortunate news surfaced that UFC light heavyweight champion Jamahal Hill had suffered a torn Achilles tendon while participating in the UFC Fighter basketball game during International Fight Week. In a video released for his YouTube channel, Hill spoke about the situation.
It's just one of those things that happens, you know. It's a tough injury. It's one that will require surgery and will require time and rehab and things for me to be out for a while.
With surgery coming up next Monday, Hill has relinquished the light heavyweight title, putting the division in a similar position as it was earlier this year when Jiří Procházka relinquished the belt due to a shoulder injury. Based on other professional athletes, Hill could be out for 6 months to a year, or maybe even possibly longer. After the news quickly went viral, Jiří Procházka, who was eager to return to the octagon and fight Hill in a bid to reclaim the light heavyweight title, took to Twitter offering Hill words of encouragement while looking ahead to his own return and maintaining that he's the champion. When Hill returns to the octagon, he has the guarantee of the UFC that he will be able to compete for the title without having to work his way back into contention. How do you want to see the UFC handle the situation at 205 pounds with the vacant light heavyweight title? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. UFC Fight Updates. A slew of fights were reportedly added to upcoming cards this week, including the first announced fight for UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi. Without further ado, let's jump right in. First up, we have a showdown between Martin Buday and Josh Parisian, added to UFC Vegas 78 on August 12th. The bout will see the 10-1 Buday look to pick up a win after TKOing Chris Barnett back in December, while Parisian looks to return to the win column after a February loss to Jamal Pogues. Next up, we have a clash between Angie Lusa and Rhys McKee, set for UFC Paris on September 2nd. The fight will see Lusa look to pick up his second win inside the octagon, while McKee looks to make a successful UFC return after a 3-0 run in Cage Warriors. Next up, we have a clash between Cynthia Calvillo and Elise Reed, added to the UFC's Mexican Independence Day card on September 16th, where Calvillo will look to snap a 5-fight skid that has seen her go winless since 2020, while Reed looks to build on a June win over Jin Yu Frey. The following week, Muhammad Usman will return to the octagon to fight Jake Collier at UFC Vegas 79. This fight will see Usman look to build on a 2-fight win streak, while Collier looks to snap a 3-fight skid. Last but certainly not least, we have the first announced bout for UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi, where flyweights Muhammad Mokaev and Tim Elliott will battle it out in a highly anticipated matchup. Mokaev will look to keep his undefeated record intact, while Elliott looks to add to his 2-fight win streak. Before we continue, make sure you give that like like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Forbes reveals staggering UFC valuation. Years back, the UFC sold for a whopping $4 billion, netting a massive profit for Dana White and the Fertitta brothers. At the time, there was plenty of talk about how far the promotion had come. However, a recent report from Forbes indicates that the UFC has had staggering growth over the past few years. According to Forbes, the UFC is now worth $12.1 billion, with the majority of that being media, while sponsorships make up 13%, live events make up 11%, and consumer products like merchandise make up 5%. In addition to the whopping $12 billion valuation, the part of the valuation that caught the attention of fans was the 11% being from live events. Although the UFC has undoubtedly added more live events to its schedule as of late, the promotion still has a number of cards being held at the UFC Apex in the immediate future. Should they wind up hitting the road more in 2024, expect the 11% valuation from live events in 2022 to make a jump. Dominick Cruz rips into Henry Cejudo. At UFC 292, former two-division champion Henry Cejudo was slated to compete against Marlon Chito Vera, with bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling set to defend his title in the main event against Sugar Sean O'Malley. Unfortunately, due to a shoulder injury, Cejudo was forced out of the fight. However, he maintained that when he returns, he'd like to compete against the number 1 ranked bantamweight contender, Merab Dvalishvili. The situation has not sat well with Dominick Cruz, who took aim at his former rival on a recent episode of The Schaub Show.
He had that whole statement about this and that, but then you give us 2 opponents that are ranked higher than Vera, which tells me that you didn't want somebody ranked where Vera was at.
Given the bad blood, it could be that Cruz is looking to use the opportunity to secure himself a rematch with Triple C. However, given that the Dominator is currently ranked 9th in the division, he faces a tough road ahead to get back in position to fight a top contender. When Cejudo returns to the octagon, who do you want to see him fight against? Drop your predictions in the comment section down below. And now for a breaking news story of the day. We have the MMA community going off on Khamzat Chimaev. Fans were anticipating a clash between Khamzat and Kamaru Usman, but it looks like Boers will face off against Jared Cannonier at UFC 294, not Usman. This left fans angry and upset at Khamzat for not accepting the challenge against Usman. Chael Sonnen came at Khamzat. Here's what he had to say.
And when you say disappointing, who would you have liked to see Khamzat fight?
Just to remind you, he was supposed to fight Paulo Costa, then it was rumored he was going to fight Kamaru Usman, and now it's rumored that he's going to fight Jared Cannonier. So generally when you have a number 1 contender fight, it's not about go win, it's about go beat that guy. Now it's been revealed to us crystal clear, not once, twice, but 3 times just at this point, that it doesn't matter who the guy is. That he's going to be a number 1 contenders match if he gets a win, but it doesn't matter who the guy is, and frankly, that's weird.
One fan had this to say, so he let us wait all these months to let it not be Usman. And another fan said, damn, I was really looking forward to Khamzat versus Usman. Finally, a fan came at his weight cutting and said, guess he can't make 170 anymore. Did you want to see Khamzat fight Kamaru Usman, or are you excited to see Khamzat versus Jared Cannonier? Let us know in the comments below. Chael Sonnen, Jake Paul, and Stipe Miocic react to Ngannou-Fury news. Former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou just can't seem to stop proving Dana White wrong, even if he isn't trying to. As he pointed out in a recent interview with MMA on SiriusXM, the promotional brass wants to see him fail, and he's eager to prove them wrong.
It's not a secret that so many people wanted me to fail. They don't want me to succeed. Yeah. I mean, it's not a secret. It's quite obvious, and you all know about it.
Recently, while Ngannou was vying for a boxing match with Tyson Fury, Dana White offered Fury a contract to fight in the UFC. Another move Ngannou perceived to be done with the intention of taking his legs out from under him, so to speak. With the deal now done, many are happy for Ngannou. However, Chael Sonnen isn't too pleased with Fury. He weighed in on the upcoming bout between the Gypsy King and the Predator, likening it to watching the LA Lakers take on Tom Brady and the New England Patriots in a basketball game during an interview with the Schmo.
Do you see how stupid it is? Do you see why it's never happened? Do you see why it's never even been discussed? Because that's what's happening here. This is literally the most ridiculous sporting event of my lifetime.
On the flip side, Jake Paul praised Ngannou for getting a deal done in an interview with MMA Junkie, pointing to the historical significance of Ngannou proving he can make big money outside of the UFC.
I'm happy for him, and I think he's creating history by showing other UFC fighters that they can make so much more money by being in control of their own destiny.
In addition, Stipe Miocic also weighed in on whether or not Ngannou stands a chance during a recent appearance on Michael Bisping's Believe You Me podcast, given the fact that he shared the octagon with Ngannou on 2 separate occasions and holds a win over the former champ.
Be a good fight. I mean, on paper, no. you know, but
Yeah.
I mean, any guy would say no just because pay-per-view with me, just because, you know, we're going to his world. But also it's a fight, anything can happen. He hits hard, and it's, you know, like, and he throws wild.
With the fight set to take place in October, do you think Ngannou will be able to shock the world and pick up a massive win? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below.